Hi there, this is Joanne Dennison, CMP, the Meat Guide, and I'm welcoming you to another edition of Sit in the Attendees Chair. Thanks so much, whether this be your first one you're listening to or you've listened to some of the previous ones. Always glad to have you on and hope you always walk away with at least one thing that helps you in some way. I'm really excited today because we have a guest, and one of the things, in fact, we were just discussing it before we started recording, is the fact that there are so many credentials. And if you don't know exactly what we mean by credentials and why I finally started using credentials instead of designations, although I use that too, please do go back and listen to the episode with where we talk about credentials and what that means, and which ones can you use the letters after your name and which ones you can't, and what all's in the industry. I think a lot of you will find that really interesting. I have asked 20 years of questions on that, but I still learned something from that one too. But there's so many different professional associations. For those of you who are familiar with EIC, the Events Industry Council, formerly the Convention Industry Council, formerly the Convention Liaison Council, if you've been around a while, it is made up of over 30 professional associations in the meetings, events, and hospitality industry. And we don't even know a fraction. Most of us couldn't even probably name six. And so one of the things I am hoping to do through this podcast is expose you to a lot of these different associations, what makes them, very special and independent, and why you might choose to belong to one of them versus some of the bigger, more encompassing ones like an MPI or a PCMA or an ILEA. But there are ones that are targeted towards certain types of planners. And I think that's really important for you to know. So today we are welcoming Diana Hackenholtz, a CMP, which is actually how we know each other, and I'll tell you that story in a minute. She is the Director of Meetings and Education for the Association of Collegiate, meaning colleges, people, colleges and universities, Conference and Events Directors International, and the acronym is ACED-I, ACED-I. And really excited to have her. And like I said, how we met, and this is why you need to go to industry events, is we do both have our CMP. And for many years, I don't know if it's going to continue post-pandemic, there was I'm going to say conference called the CMP Conclave, held every year, and only CMPs could attend. And I know where we were. We were in Baltimore, so that was around maybe 2016. I think we were in Baltimore, and or was it
National
DC?
Harbor.
Okay, I pictured the ballroom, and I kept thinking, no, that was National Harbor, but it seemed like a year too late. So 2017, and yeah, because I kept picturing the ballroom and going, that was not Baltimore. I just, so yes, you're absolutely right. And the committee had created a Sunday brunch to end the thing, and we were standing there with glasses of mimosa, and I read her name tag, and having come from colleges and universities, I was really interested to learn more. And luckily, we've stayed in touch. In fact, Steve, go ahead. Go ahead. You might as well say it.
Steve the Great.
He has actually spoken at their conferences too. So he's actually, well, we both met Diana. So anyway, point being is random mimosas can lead you at industry associations to bringing, very interesting people into your life that teach you things. So, that's a good memory of mine from Conclave, along with many others. So,
Mine
Diana,
as well.
yeah, isn't that? I mean, when I think about that, that was just, it was just so random
Hey,
out of 300 or 400 people that we would run into each other and start talking. Um,
exactly.
so Diana, one of the things I have found that people love to hear other people's story is, how they wandered into the meetings and events industry, since for most of us it was a winding, very indirect road, because most of us when we got out of school did not even have a clue that anyone did this for a living. And what Kim Copperthwaite, I think she called it, "On My Way to Becoming a Meeting Planner," was what she calls this storyline, which I think is pretty good since everyone's background. So tell us, how did you end up here?
Well, it was a little bit of a roundabout way, but still kind of a focus where I knew I wanted to get into tourism was my thought at the onset of my college career. But I was doing it through horses initially. I was a great lover of horseback riding, had taken many classes throughout my younger years, and found a university that had equine science as a major.
Where'd you go?
So I came out here to Colorado State University. I still live in Fort Collins, where it's located.
Okay.
And my initial idea was to get into dude ranching, which is kind of a tourism aspect of the overall equine world. I actually received the Dude Ranchers Association scholarship and spent a summer working at a dude ranch in Idaho, and had added natural resources, recreation, and tourism as a minor to my equine science major, and pretty much determined that it's very difficult to get into dude ranching unless you can, own your own place. And they're, usually small family-run businesses. And I just knew that wasn't going to be in the cards for me. So a lot of conversations with my advisors on both of aspects, the major and the minor, and ultimately decided I needed to drop equine science and make natural resources, recreation, and tourism my major, which is what I did. And that kind of started me down this path where upon completion of the degree, I went on to a golf resort in Illinois and missed Colorado entirely too much. I learned I'm very much a mountain girl, so I made my way back as quick as I could and worked in a variety of areas of the industry. I worked at a hospitality management company with their limited service portfolio. Went on to the Oxford Hotel, a historic property in downtown Denver.
What was that one? What was it?
The Oxford Hotel, which is actually 1 year older than the Brown Palace, which most people are more familiar with in downtown Denver.
Yep, I know Brown Palace. That was on my bucket list, and I got to do it a couple of years ago. Was so excited. It was ridiculous.
Beautiful, beautiful hotel. And then I ended up coming back up to Fort Collins, just an hour north of Denver, to work at the Convention and Visitors Bureau, now Visit Fort Collins. But back in the day when I was there, we were still calling all of them Convention and Visitors Bureaus.
And now they don't even use that. They keep, DMO, and it's like, what?
Exactly.
Just to add to the confusion with the DMC, right? Oh my gosh. Right. So
it really does.
It really does, yeah. I mean, I'm constantly trying to, and I have to be careful when I say it because I'm likely to say the wrong way. I know what I'm trying to say, but it doesn't always come out that way. But wow,
yeah, and having worked for them when they were a CVB, even though I know of the change that's happened so long ago now, it's such a habit of mine still to utilize that term.
Most people do, even younger people coming into the industry, they still refer to them as CVB. So I'm not sure it was a great rebranding, but that's my opinion.
Well, that makes me feel a little bit better. That's not just me.
Not just you at all. So CVB in Fort Collins.
Yeah, and it was a great opportunity. Fort Collins was a very easy sell for me because I loved this community, having gone to college here, and being a smaller bureau, we, worked pretty much with clients from beginning to end. So there wasn't a lot of pass off. And, through that process, working with a lot of folks that weren't professional meeting planners and, needed the extra assistance. And I found myself acting very much like a consultant in many cases, and found that, that's what I really am enjoying doing. And about that time, I'd gotten to know some folks here at ACCED-I, and a position came open, and it was a perfect transition for me to move into the planner seat from the supplier side. And that's kind of been my route.
Wow. So a couple things. Because I get these questions from people, do you think having been on the supplier side, did that help make you a better planner?
Absolutely. I think, just like when you're in a hotel and, they encourage you to work in every department, I think for the industry as a whole, to have experience in different sides of the industry is always going to be enlightening and useful in your current position.
Yeah, that's what I always tell people, when I have people who are on the hospitality side, or they're thinking of, on the hotel side or supplier side, and they're thinking about taking a job over there, and they're like, yeah, but I really want to be a planner. I said, one of my biggest regrets is I never did work on the other side. And I feel like I'm always trying to catch up on information that I don't know because of it. And I said, when you become a planner, you're going to bring so much good information to your organization because you know how a hotel works, or a DMC, or a DMO, or whatever. You just have inside knowledge that people don't really know unless they've actually worked in it. So I think it makes you more valuable personally. So,
well, thank you. I've found every experience I've had to, just build one on the other and, make you a better, well-rounded professional in the industry.
Exactly. There's no such thing as too much knowledge, especially with things changing so fast. It's weird what you end up having to use that you may have run across 10 years ago that didn't seem super pertinent at the time, is what I've found.
Exactly.
But you come back to it. So a couple other quick questions about you before we move on is, so you didn't grow up in Colorado, though. You went to Colorado but found out that's actually where you belonged?
Well, I jokingly say I halfway grew up in Colorado. My father is also a Colorado State University alum, and he didn't want to leave Colorado either. Unfortunately, he wasn't as lucky as I was, and he ended up back in Omaha, Nebraska, where I did grow up. But he made sure we came to Colorado every year for a vacation, and I knew the CSU campus like the back of my hand before I was even enrolled.
Those legacy students, schools love them, when the parents bring them. And do you still do anything with the horses?
Unfortunately, not too much. It is a very expensive hobby.
Yeah.
And not one that I can enjoy at the moment. But whenever I have a chance, I do get out on trail rides or do what I can when the opportunity does present itself.
Did you say you participated in fox hunts? Did I hear you say that?
No, I did not do fox
I thought I heard her.
I'm looking at him going, what?
I thought I heard her say that. And oh, by the way,
I was on the equestrian team, but no fox hunts.
Okay. My parents actually went to a dude ranch one time on vacation.
Oh, that must have been very interesting.
I didn't go, but I mean, they went. They loved it. So anyway.
Yeah, there's one.
One day I would love to go back as a guest to that dude ranch. It's changed hands, it's different owners, but I think that would be such a fun experience to go back there.
Wait, did you go there as a kid or you worked there actually?
When I worked there as part of an internship up in Idaho, I had a summer at a dude ranch up there, and probably one of my most memorable summers for sure.
Oh, wow. I know when I lived in New Jersey, there was a one north of New York City that people, no.
A dude ranch north of New York City?
Oh, this thing is very, very popular. I think it's considered a dude ranch. And it's like in the Catskills region, nothing city about it. And I mean, Girl Scout troops used to go up, and just families. It's very family oriented and everything. I can't remember the name of it. Every once in a while I see it and it just brings. I never went. But yeah, that. And even when you said equine science, it's interesting because one of our neighbors, the daughter actually has lived, eat, breathe horses since she was growing up, and she was looking for schools with equine science. And we suggested the only one we knew was Midway, Kentucky, because we had
Ah,
stumbled across it one time when we were at University of Kentucky for something. But yeah, she's actually training to become a physical therapist for horses, and
oh,
apparently
fantastic.
she has to do the DPT first and then go do the equine courses to do that. You actually get your regular DPT, Doctor of Physical Therapy, and then go do it, which I thought was
Mhm.
interesting. But you don't meet a whole lot of people who have majored in equine sciences, that's for sure.
No, you don't.
So, so now I got to ask one more question about the equine science because it's got my attention. What do they, with that degree, what do they prepare people to go do? Like,
Well,
what do people who do finish that degree and do something directly with it, what do most of them do?
I mean, there's so many jobs. I mean, just kind of like our industry, there's so many facets of it
Mm-hmm.
that surprises people. And it's the same way in the equine industry. You kind of picked a focus, be it industry or science. When you went into the sciences aspect of it, you're looking at reproduction,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Training,
you know,
probably.
but yeah, genetics,
Yep.
lots of things like that, along with, just overall care. Um, and then you have the industry side of it, which, it's kind of what I mentioned. It's the business side with food ranching, but it could be, going into journalism specific to uh, the equine world or anything
Racetracks,
along those lines.
probably.
There's a lot of options, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
How interesting. And having lived in New Jersey for a long time, like I even discovered things by sitting next to someone on a plane one day that, like, North Jersey, it was all the fox hunts and breeding and the United States equestrian team, but South Jersey was all the racehorses. And it was
mm-hmm.
just interesting to learn that there were these two different worlds. To me, it was all horses. This is it when you're on the outside. And talking to this woman whose husband happened to be one of the top equine vets, and I guess in the country, and learning, I was like, wow, I never even thought of some of the information she was telling me. And here I'd lived in New Jersey all these years and knew that horses were a very key thing in New Jersey. But anyway, okay, so now that we've talked horses, so I guess we should go back. So tell us about ACED-I. Tell us about the organization, how to come to be, who's members, et cetera, et cetera. Tell us about it.
Yeah, we are in our 42nd year, coming up on our 42nd annual conference. And
Excellent.
our members plan, coordinate, market, design conferences and events on their collegiate campuses. And they're kind of in the unique position where, in many cases, they are both the planner, but could be seen on the supplier side as well. They do both internal and those external events and conferences. So, in terms of internal, our members can be integral in the planning of commencement, presidential inaugurations, alumni events, donor events. They can be bringing in high-level speaker series for their communities. But then during the summer mainly, but throughout the year, depending on each university's capabilities, they bring in external events to their campuses. And that can range from, what most people I think would initially think of, like band camps and cheerleading camps and things like that, which gets the high school students interested in collegiate life and hopefully their specific campus. But they will also bring in, international symposiums, associations, religious groups onto their campus to hold their conferences. So they kind of work in all areas, from large events to these to smaller meetings to large international conferences.
So, obviously, see, I like that.
Sorry,
no.
that's my dog Cody. I apologize.
Don't. We long ago, I mean, we've had a number of dogs on the show, trust me. So don't, probably a few UPS deliveries, Alexa talking in the background, whatever.
Send us a picture of Cody.
Yeah. We'll put Cody up on
I
social
will.
media.
He's 8 months now.
Oh, definitely send it. We'll put him up as a guest speaker on the podcast this week. They're nodding, yeah. Kelly and Pauline are going, yeah. We love animals. Kelly has a dog.
Rosie, yes. She's an English Cocker Spaniel.
So she shows up, and Pauline just got a new baby.
I just got a kitten.
A black kitten.
3 months old black kitten.
So yeah, we're big into it. So no problem there. But one of the things, when I talk to people who are, looking at their career path and where they should go, I'm always a big proponent for get on higher ed jobs and look at the jobs in the colleges and universities. There's a lot of benefits of working there. And, but the first thing I get from people is, oh, no. I don't want to work with students. And of course, since I come out of student life, I'm always like, no. That's a whole different career track. You're not working with the students, except maybe you'll plan commencement. So I think, do you find that a lot of people struggle to understand that there are meeting and or event planners on campus that pretty much do nothing with the students? Do you or your group already knows?
So, our members do employ a lot of students.
Oh, yeah.
Actually. And
Yep.
it is a great way for students to get their foot in the door
Yep.
when they're at those universities to work with the conference or events departments and, work alongside, the professionals and, see firsthand what the business is all about. And, in some cases, clients may work with some of the students that have, been there and have reached that level in the department. But, all clients, are working with professionals at the university that, are full-time and knowledgeable in what it takes to put a meeting together. Many of our members are veterans and have been doing this for a very long time.
Absolutely. Oh, Steve, you're going to say something?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you were going to bring this up at some point. But, I'm out of higher ed too, and now there are many campuses that have just excellent meeting facilities. I mean, they're building hotels with meeting space, on campus, probably
and conference centers.
And conference centers. It may be in a joint partnership with somebody, or it may be managed by some flag. But where was the one I went in Virginia where we went?
James Madison.
James Madison had just built a hotel. We
were there second week.
Yeah, we were there the second week, and like some of their furniture hadn't arrived. We didn't have a chair in our room. It was still on the truck somewhere. It was so new. The whole place smelled like new carpet. It was great, but it was an excellent meeting facility, and for small meetings market, I always recommend that they look at some campuses in their local area, because they're prepared and they're able to do this and educated in it.
Well, and I think people still have Go ahead, Diana.
I was just going to say, many of our members do have on-campus hotels or conference centers in addition to the, classroom space and the arenas and the stadiums and just a variety of places to meet. And because they are higher education and servicing their student population, they have, in a lot of cases, great state-of-the-art technology in these classrooms, in these spaces. And, residence halls are also available during the summertime for lodging as well as local hotels. And, many residence halls aren't like what we all probably remember
exactly.
when we were students. They are nice apartments and, and things like that. I mean, there are still obviously some of those traditional setups,
but very
pretty
few.
amazing.
You very seldom, and that's what I always try to tell people too. Now, we're not talking quarter style dorms with, common bathrooms. Yeah, maybe very occasionally, but you know, the residence halls we've toured in the past 10 years are nicer than
Like,
most of the apartments I lived in until I was over 30.
like
you
High,
know,
High Point.
High Point.
High Point
Oh
down
yeah,
in
High Point
North Carolina.
University.
It's
Um,
amazing.
But yeah, and I think, and that's another thing I guess I would hope coming out of this podcast, because I'm always saying to planners, to corporate planners, association planners, nonprofit planners, have you, just like Steve, have you looked at colleges and universities? Their facilities are not what you think they are. I mean, there might be some, but there's also, like you said, yes, we used to do the classrooms and it was a classroom. That's what it was. But as you said, the classrooms, and especially after the past year and a half, are so high tech. They've installed
Yeah.
so much everywhere. And of course, I always joke that one of the biggest things to me, especially if you're on a budget, is the cost of food and beverage versus at a hotel. It's a fraction of what it would be at a hotel nearby.
It is. It's a big difference. And, you have options there too. You have, you can utilize the traditional dining hall, which isn't, again, much like the residence halls, not what you remember it being.
Right.
There are so many variety of options, and they're right on top of dietary needs and allergies and things like that. Or you can also go the traditional catering route when you have meetings at these campuses.
Yeah. So hopefully this will pique even people who aren't currently working with, higher ed venues to really look into it, because it is quite something. And the other thing, I've had a lot of higher ed planners in my class this past year from all across the country, and it's been very interesting to see how different even their jobs are. Like you said, some are doing outside, some are off-campus groups, some are doing on-campus groups like the president's office. Like someone I know just did a big ribbon cutting event for a huge brand new dental school. And walking through that, and someone else, there was a new president near us that was inaugurated, and but then one of my other planners only works with the engineering alumni from her school. That's their department. It's alumni and development and fundraising, but it's only the engineers as opposed to the medical school or the law school or whatever. So I think when people go, oh, I don't know that I want to do higher ed, I think there's a cool niche for almost anyone on if they find the right campus.
Absolutely. I mean, you have some of the smaller universities where you might find you're a one-stop shop or a department of 2 or 3 because of the size of the institution, and you have the opportunity to get your fingers in everything. You have a role in everything that happens on campus when it comes to events and conferences. Or if you want to get more specific, some of those larger institutions will have a separate events department from a separate conference department. The alumni office might be the one handling those specific events. Many of our campuses, talking about another thing that happens at times, is filming crews will come on to film, series, comedy series or movies that, need to have a campus background. So, they have the chance to, work on an event that's dealing, with Hollywood there. So there's always something unique that happens on a collegiate campus, that's for sure. High-profile event.
And I had someone recently say, but I don't want to just plan stuff on campus. I want to be able to travel. And what I found is, first of all, some of the ones who do alumni, they will do alumni events elsewhere in the country and maybe even outside of the country, depending on the school, where they are, sourcing and going off the campus to do events. And the other one that I was fascinated by one of the universities, I'd never heard of a university doing this, but I'm sure it's far more common than I knew, is their department handled like, you know, when the person from the history department now is president of his or her association, and like you said, they want to bring the, you know, symposiums on campus or whatever, and, you know, suddenly the meeting planning department at the university is working with them to do that. But in their particular case, they could be hired. So say that person had to do a conference somewhere else. The professor at their college, an employee of the college, could hire that department to go plan a meeting in another state. That blew me out of the water.
Absolutely. I was going to just make mention of it. It was like you were reading my mind, that we do have, you know, a subset of members that do act as kind of like that third party meeting planner for their campus cohorts, where, you know, the professors or whoever is, you know, needing the assistance to bring in a meeting or, you know, to the area, and need someone that knows what they're doing to help them with that. So we definitely have those people that are meeting planners that are mainly planning things outside of the university.
Yeah, that blew me away. I was like, you do what? Wait, you go out of state? You're a state university. Hang on, I'm not getting this. But like you described it perfectly. They're like an independent meeting or a third party meeting firm that can be hired.
Yeah.
And what a great revenue source for the college and university too. Which is what's
absolutely. Our members generally are that ancillary revenue for the university, and actually one of the big reasons many universities can be around employment opportunities. You know, once everybody has, you know, some students on campus in the summertime, but, you know, the numbers definitely go down. And by bringing in outside events, you can keep those residence halls open and the dining service working and things like that. So.
Yeah, and at a time when so many, you know, colleges and universities are looking for alternative revenue streams, which of course is more into Steve's world than mine, you know, to keep tuition down, to build new buildings, to do whatever. I mean, alternative revenue streams is never a bad thing unless it's illegal. But, you know, what a great way for a college or university to look at how can they expand what they're offering. Steve's dying to say something. Here we go. Go ahead.
No. My tax mind kicked in because she said, you know, we can keep those residence halls. And I went, oh, have you heard about hotel motel tax? I'm stopping.
We're going to save that for another day.
Okay.
That has come up at some various meeting planning things, but I'm sure they talk about it. I think you even talked about it in the fall with them when you were on on their thing.
Sorry.
So
yes, I was just going to say, Steve, that's why we have you come in as a speaker.
I can picture this one woman sitting in her office on that fall event, and I think it had something to do with this. I don't know why I can remember this one particular attendee more than others. I mean, she was lovely, and she was, you know, fighting to keep everyone employed and everything. She was absolutely a wonderful woman. So tell me why someone would want to join ACCED-I.
Well, like so many aspects of the industry, there are unique things you run across when you're working in an institute of higher education as the hospitality meeting professional. Just like, you know, the government or the healthcare professionals have things that they need to be more aware of and more in tune to. So do our members. They are not purely working to bring meetings and events on the campus, like a hotel or a conference center. They're working within the overall structure of an institution whose, you know, first and foremost mission is for their students. So they're working with various departments that might, you know, be in line with what they want, or might be a little bit more difficult to work with at times, depending on what they see as their priorities. So they need to have relationships everywhere, more so than you would in a traditional hotel or conference center to, make these things come off without a hitch. Knowing how to deal with, the president's office and justifying why it is important to have a conference and event
Protocol and
on the campus,
yeah.
protocols, all of it. So, we're that niche for those that have those unique situations, being, in a collegiate environment. So we provide that for them, provide that networking, that connection, promote what the standard of excellence should be for those in the industry. It's more of a unique situation when you're looking at professionals in collegiate conferences and events, is that they can be under various different departments at the university, which also affects a lot of their operations. One might be under the president's office, while another one might be housed under auxiliary services. So, there's so many differences even within our membership and in the structure as well.
That I can believe just from what I've seen in my career, but also seeing the students who, and people that I meet. So really it's anyone who would be planning, selling, supplying, planning, servicing, anything to do with events on a collegiate setting.
Exactly. Which is actually quite a big umbrella when you think of it, because
yes, it is. Because it could even be people from some of the groups that things are outsourced to, like Sodexo and Aramark, and who are placed on a college campus, I would think.
Yes, yeah, and those kinds of companies are, in a lot of cases, the caterers for the events that come on the campus. So they are working through the Office of Conference Services, or, and having those relationships with our members and with us as an association as well.
So what kinds of education do you supply? Like, what does a member get an opportunity to learn from? I mean, I assume you have publications and mid-year conferences and annual conventions. What do we do?
So, yeah, we do have 5 regions. So our regions do get together, have networking events, some education. We also provide in the fall what we call educational forums, which both you and Steve have presented for us in the past, last year, where we kind of drill down to a more specific area of collegiate conferencing and events, anywhere from business operations or a leadership focus, event management, logistics, to have a focus. And we've been doing those virtually now for a few years. And then our annual conference is where, as most annual conferences are, you get all aspects available, a good smorgasbord of education. That could be specific to, commencement responsibilities, inauguration, again, all the logistics of that, marketing, selling, customer service. As with many people, we're trying to get back to a new normal. So getting out there and being open for business again for the summer of 2022.
It's interesting. You answered one of the questions I was going to say is, give me an example of a session that would be there that you wouldn't find anywhere else. But like you said, how to plan commencement, how to plan, how to plan the president's thing, how to, I was also thinking, one of the things people talk about, because it comes up in certain things I do, about handling like high profile government people, like presidents, heads of state from other countries, governors, et cetera. And all, the highest I ever got was a governor. But, when I was on colleges and I was thinking, wow, colleges and universities are a key place where people, more than most corporate meetings, I mean, corporate meetings, you might have, one keynote speaker who falls into that category. But in colleges and universities, those people are coming in and out all the time in terms of, like I said, dignitaries and
Or even hosting a presidential debate on campus.
yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are really big business. And, we have some experts within our membership that, have done many of those big debates. And
I know Belmont received a great deal of free publicity for hosting the presidential debates, and their
Someone in Ohio had it last year. I forget who.
I forget, but I know Belmont
Yeah,
benefited
Belmont.
greatly.
Well, they've had more than one there, I think.
Their
as part of it.
admissions requests just skyrocketed after the presidential debates as a result of the publicity. So it benefits the entire university.
But that would be, I always tell people if you've been involved in an event that is that me? No. That had someone like that you should include it on your professional profile, on your resume or something, because working with the Secret Service or even the state troopers for the governor's office, it's eye-opening. It truly is eye-opening. But I'm thinking that colleges and universities, boy, you brought up the film industry, and I think I hadn't even thought about that, but you're definitely going to get a more varied. If you're the kind that doesn't want every day to be the same, you are going to get that working on a college and university campus versus going to the same corporation and doing the same type of meetings. I mean, that's one of the beauties, definitely, of working on the campus, I think. But
no, that is very true. A lot of different high-profile opportunities, not just in the political arena. Like I said, many universities will have, speaker series, and they could be bringing in any kind of big name out there that you could possibly imagine.
Or,
to have a.
Yeah. Speaking of filming, like when Jeopardy does the College Bowl quiz and goes from university to university. I was at one university and Jeopardy came, and they had 10,000 people in the audience to see a Jeopardy show. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So, at your annual conference, do you have an exhibit hall?
We do. We have an exhibit hall for those that provide services and
what's the most interesting thing you can think of that's in there? This is one of my favorites, like talking to associations and saying, so what's at yours? And like Kim Copperthwaite, who works for New Jersey Association of Justice, hers is like, well, accident recreation people and medical experts. And I'm like, but because it's, a lot of the law cases that are handled. Or I talked to someone else who worked for an association that it was about, the work put into the ground to hold a building. And it was like all the concrete pours and so what are kind of the most unique ones that show up at yours?
We've definitely had a variety of unique ones over the years. We have Varsity Spirits, which brings in cheerleading camps to various universities throughout the summer. So they're always fun to have.
Kelly's nodding her head. Were you a cheerleader or something?
Yes, all through high school and middle school. I went to all the cheerleading camps at the colleges.
Yeah, so see, you know exactly
Yes.
what we're talking about. But, we have other companies that, bring in other groups like that, but a lot of the typical ones you would see for our industry. We've
furniture, linens.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
furniture, linens, software for registration, for organization, all those kinds of things, interpreting services,
interpreting
promotional
that
products, like TC name tags.
Oh, yeah.
Places like that. We've got AV companies.
I know you have
Big
event
waves.
registration companies, or at least one probably that exhibits.
Oh, yes, we have many of those. You mentioned like Sodexo before. They have a campus conferencing unit. So they're some of our corporate members and who you would see at our exposition.
Very interesting. Is well, obviously, since the I is international, you do have some campuses that are outside of the United States, maybe outside of North America.
Yeah, we probably our largest aspect of our international is our Canadian members for sure. But we do have a few from the UK. We've had a few out in Qatar, and we've had someone from Egypt. I would have to look at our membership to know if they're still currently members
Did
right
you ever
now.
have any
There's
from?
been a lot of changes.
Oh, yeah. Well, the past year and a half has messed up everyone's membership. Did you ever have any from France? Pauline is from France, so we got to find out if there were any. Just curious.
I cannot think of one off the top of my head, but that doesn't mean we haven't.
Right, right. Yeah, I was just kind of curious. And I know, I mean, it's just like so many other programs that started in the U.S. And like you said, Canada became the first international, and then Mexico, and then it spread out. And I know over in Europe, there are some associations that started over there. Same thing. You know, they slowly start spreading through. So the next thing I really wanted you to talk about is the credentials. So as we were talking beforehand, a lot of times people call me and say, okay, well, I'm thinking of going for some designation, some credentials, some letters after my name, or whatever you want to call it. What should I go between this one, or what do you think I should do next? And my point to them always is it depends. It depends what you want to get out of it. And I know you do. In fact, I didn't know. I guess I knew you had more than one, but I didn't know what the second one was until we were talking before we went on. So why don't you tell them about the credentials, designations, et cetera, opportunities people have, badges of honor from your organization? Why don't you tell what you have?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So we have the Collegiate Conference and Events Professional credential that is an individual credential, much like the CMP. I know we both have that. Mm-hmm. And ACCED-I also does encourage the CMP. We are a member of the Events Industry Council. But we have found, like so many associations, because we are a niche area of the hospitality, you know, our members straddle the world of higher education and hospitality, that to have that niche credential that related to exactly what they are doing was going to be a very beneficial thing. So it helps recognize those that reach that high level of achievement in the collegiate management. So we give them 3 years from their entrance into the program. We do require a variety of activities, your CEUs, of course, but we also like to see the volunteerism and the giving back to the industry as a writer, as a presenter, as a participant in benchmarking for the industry as a whole. And then it culminates in a essay exam. And much like the Events Industry Council has their international standards, we also have standards that our questions are related to. And another association that we are a part of, which is the consortium called CAST, which is the Council for the Advancement of Standards in Higher Education, puts together areas that are important for all of us associations that deal with associations, from us to fraternity sorority groups to law enforcement officers to risk management departments. We all belong to CAST and work on these standards that we then incorporate into our credential. So, for example, some of those focuses might be on the programs and services. An area that would be unique to our credential would be student learning, development, and success, as that is a big cornerstone of higher education is the students. When our members employ students, it's also with an eye of furthering their development and their success for the future. We also have leadership, management, and supervision, ethics, law and policy, financial resources. These are all areas that they will be focused on in the testing that they do in submitting their written exam back to us.
Wow.
And then they are able to get their CCEP. And the recertification process is every 3 years. Again, like most, you don't have to go through that lengthy exam base anymore, but we do still like to see those CEUs coming in, as well as, the professional development to the industry as a continued speaker, writer, and volunteerism.
Wow, that's quite something. And how long has the designation been around?
It's been around for a little over 20 years now.
Okay.
And it has gone through many iterations over that time.
Similar
so
to
it
the
could be
CMP.
more professional. Yes, very much like that. And about 15 years ago is when we started incorporating those CAS standards into the credential, which I think really gave it a lot more stature in the industry and focus to the exam.
And how many CCEPs are there?
Well, that is always a changing number due to obviously recertification.
Yeah.
But we probably have over 100, which again doesn't sound like the number CMP has for any means, that we are a niche in the hospitality industry. So.
Exactly. No, and a very, again, so different than, the financial planners or the pharma planners or it is just a very, very different world, both the types of events you're planning and who you're planning them for and the ground that you are planning them on. So, yeah, I think it's a very niche, industry. And I always wish more people would look at it, because to me, the benefits of working on a college campus are amazing, from tuition, discounted or fully paid for, to, just it's a whole different environment. It functions differently, and some ways maybe more frustrating. I always warn my corporate friends, if you're going to go work at a college or university, just please expect everything to take triple the time it took in corporate. It just... You need 6 signatures, and, like when people apply for jobs and they're like, I didn't hear anything. I said, you're not going to hear anything for 3 months. So, they got to bring everything in. Just calm down. Everything's by committee. But there's so many pluses to working on a college campus that people don't see. The salary may or may not be what it is out in the rest of the world, but there are so many other benefits, including better job security, usually, a more livable schedule, that not...
Well, sometimes, just like any of us events people, you have your busy times and you kind of wonder, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
I'm working 7 days a week, 60
Right.
hours a week, whatever it may be at times.
Yeah, absolutely. Opening a school is the one that I always remember, the 2 to 3 weeks before, it's just all hands on deck, everyone on campus, and it goes into the first couple of weeks and frequently through homecoming, parents weekend, etc. Yeah,
and student movement, that's a great example, especially these past couple of years, because there have been so many new aspects to that with COVID-19 and testing requirements. And many of our members had to jump in and learn how to do quarantine housing and manage that.
Yep.
And there weren't meetings coming in, but they definitely found a use for their skill set. And, working with hotel contracts as needed to use hotel space for,
Yep.
quarantine housing or,
And even some of
or
them I know were
uses.
helping run testing centers and
Yeah,
things like that. I mean, if anyone knows how
absolutely.
to get a line moving, it's it's like, this is what we need to accomplish. No, let's set this up this way and it will work
Yeah.
so much better. So tell us about the other, I don't know what the correct word would be, designation, credential, the one you were telling me about beforehand, because I really haven't heard of many, if any. I'm trying to think through the industry who do anything like this. So tell us about that one.
So our other credential is called One Stop Shop, and it is the resource for institutions, departments to identify themselves as a centralized operation to work through. We know there's a growing demand among meeting planners for an easy way of identifying these institutions that are going to be more similar to working with like a hotel would be, or a conference center. So the tenets of this certification is one contract, one contact, one bill. So that shows meeting planners that having your event, your conference is going to be simple. You're not going to have to deal with 5 different contracts, with parking, with catering, with space, with the residence halls. You have one contact you're going to work with that is going to organize all of those departments on campus for you and put it all into one contract. And at the end, you're not going to be continually getting new bills for all these pieces of your event. You're going to have, the one bill that you will pay at the end.
Wow. Yeah, I can see why that would be attractive both for people on campus and people coming onto campus from the outside.
Yeah, I think there had been a thought process out there that if you're going to be on a university campus, it's going to be a very decentralized experience. And for the most part, we are moving away from that. That's why our members kind of are in existence, is to, make clients' life easier and to be that all-encompassing place. So this is just an easier way for our members to be able to market themselves as that and show that they follow all of those important.
Wow. That's a very cool thing. I hope both planners who aren't on campus look it up to understand, again, why they're going to want to look at doing meetings on campuses. Because, yeah, I could even remember back when I was a student. And now, of course, nope, Steve, stop it. You're older than me. I knew he was going to say something, but I even remember as a student, putting together programs, and our food service was outsourced. It was an, auxiliary service, which, I didn't understand any of that until I got to college, because I think this was probably the early days of colleges beginning to do that. Bookstores were still your college bookstore owned by your college, but it was always harder because it was a whole different set of paperwork. It was a whole different set of people. So, and of course, as time went on, I saw how that happened on a lot of campuses with, it being divided. So I love the idea of one-stop shop. So Pauline and Kelly and Steve, what do you have that you may want to ask or comment on, or did you all learn anything? I guess that's the first question.
Yes.
Definitely,
I didn't know
yeah.
that was such a niche market that even existed for, event planners. I always think, if you can plan an event somewhere, you know how to plan it in a college. But I didn't think of all the intricacies of like how different it is, especially in terms of protocols, things you can and can't do in a college, surrounding students or not over the summer. I also, I never spent the summer on college campus, or I did when I did like high school camps type of things. Yeah.
But then it was all about you, so it
exactly.
didn't matter if the rest of the students
exactly.
were like gone. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty much, especially smaller universities. I know my undergrad school is very small, so they just don't have anyone on campus over the summer. So you kind of need to bring that back to life with other events. So that's interesting to hear about.
Yeah, and how about you, Kelly?
Oh, I agree. I think it's really interesting just hearing. I've never thought about all these like summer camps and just like external events. Like I just never really thought about how the school kind of plans them and brings them in over the summer. And yeah, it's interesting to learn. I never
I
thought
guess
about it.
And your class also in the spring. Remember,
Mm-hmm.
we brought a planner in from NYU, one from
Yes.
Drexel,
Mhm.
and one from
Mm-hmm.
Boston University, and their three jobs were so different,
Yeah.
and yet they were all planners on campuses. And I was like, you do what? They were that different. I'm sorry, I interrupted you,
Oh
Kelly.
no,
Go
it's
ahead.
okay. I think I was pretty much done. I definitely learned a lot. This position was something I didn't even know about until you brought the planners into your class in the spring. But it's interesting. I like hearing about it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And like I said, I've talked to two people in the past couple of weeks. One who had to do a president inauguration, which was supposed to be outside on one campus and had to get moved on 4 days' notice to inside on the other campus because of weather. And then someone else who did the dental school at Boston University that just opened. It was huge, huge, huge. And of course, doing it with COVID protocols. And Boston is under mask required indoors, except when you're actually eating or drinking. And so how they design the food to make it friendly. Go ahead, Steve.
I guess the thing that, we call it a niche market, but it's so wide and so diverse within that.
Yeah.
So it's like a big niche market, really.
Yeah,
It's not a.
there's
It's
a
not
lot of
Oh, that
diversity.
Yeah.
it's like a niche market in hospitality, but a very wide one
Yes.
within
Yeah.
the collegiate conference and events management area,
Right.
for sure.
Right.
And, kind of tying it back into the beginning of this conversation when you asked how my path went into this industry, it's amazing to hear how many stories of our members that got into it because they were a student worker and didn't realize that this was out there, that this kind of career was out there, and ended up making it their career due to, their time as a student on a collegiate campus. So.
Well, and the reality is when you talk to a lot of people, including myself, we too got started when we were in college, and I know Pauline did, and Kelly, I'm guessing you planned some stuff and everything, were involved in some things.
bit.
I know Pauline did. But for me, I did residential life, and then I moved into my first career in student activities in the college center. The college center frequently was involved in off and on campus events. And, so I didn't do well, in some ways, actually, at that college, I was one of the college planners. It was one of those other duties as a sign. You have this building, you are now part of, college events beyond the students type thing. Because I remember, and I'm sure this is a conversation that comes up, fighting because there were, like, someone wanted to bring in a group that would make money, but it would, or even, faculty or something, they wanted to do an event on campus, but it was going to mess with the students' schedule, either their class schedule or their student organizations, and they would fight with us. Well, we're more important. And we're like, no, college, about the students. Think on this here, people. But that ongoing. So I ended up going a different way, but again, so much of it came from learning how to plan events when I was an undergrad and then in grad school. So I do think I tell a lot of people when I meet them, like in high school or college, you need to go get involved in those things. If that's going to be what builds your resume for when you get out of college. I don't even care. Nobody cares what degree you actually have. They want to know what you did. If you get a hospitality degree, great. If you get a degree in American Studies, that's fine too. But what did you do in college to learn how to plan and run an event? So I think that.
And like you mentioned, scheduling is a very big thing when you're talking about
Yes.
what our members have to deal with.
Who's
At
more
times,
important?
a classroom's going to be in very high demand, and managing each area's schedule is a job in and of itself on some campuses, where you just have someone that's purely focused on making sure that is all managed correctly and things
Probably,
aren't
yeah.
double booked and all sorts of
Probably,
fun things.
probably not a live concert through Live Nations or whoever books all those things during finals week. Probably not a good idea. Maybe it is.
True.
I don't know.
Actually, usually there is some big, usually it's a little earlier in the spring. There's some major concert, just like in the fall when we were at WVU and everything. But anything else you'd like to share with us, Diana? I mean, I'm hoping people go, wow, I do. I work, I'm on a campus, or I've thought about going to changing jobs and moving to a campus. I never thought it would be this interesting. I mean, honestly, I think people just don't realize how interesting and how diverse the events are that are on a campus that have frequently nothing to do with student. This is it. They think, oh, it's about planning the movie nights and the student union. And it's like, no, no, it's not. That's someone else. That's what I used to do,
Yeah.
but
And the students also do that
yeah,
themselves.
exactly. The student organizations do that. That's not what you're doing. But anything else you can think of you would like to add that people should know? And we'll make sure we get your website up on social media and on with the podcast itself, so people can find and check out things and maybe think about going to the March conference, which you said is in Atlanta. Is that right?
It is in Atlanta, yes. It is March 6th through 9th. So we do have registration open right now, and our education action team is working diligently on getting a strong program together for that event.
And will that be hybrid or only face-to-face?
So it is in person, but we will be recording certain pieces of that to bring it in a remote fashion.
Okay.
To those that may not be able to attend.
Well, and that might be a good way for someone to get a taste of what you offer to then make the decision to move forward to be a member and attend and things like that.
Definitely. And, our association, being a collegiate conference and events professional, is a great way to, get your toe dipped in various areas of the hospitality industry. Like I said, they kind of straddle both bringing in external and working on internal. So it has a lot of varieties. So I'm very happy you gave me the opportunity to let everybody know about this niche of the hospitality industry.
Well, trust me, when we post it, I'm going to tag. I mean, off the top of my head, I can think of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 college planners who have been in my CMP classes in the past year. That I'm going to tag to make sure they pay attention, because a good chunk of them I know weren't aware. So I want to make sure they are.
And don't forget to send us a picture of Cody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to put a picture
Oh,
of
I
Cody.
definitely will.
Anything else you guys
He
want to ask?
had to make himself known. I apologize again.
No, don't.
No.
Are you kidding? That's, this is, a decision you make when you know what works for you, and this works for us.
Yeah.
Do you all have anything else you wanted to ask Diana?
I don't think so. That was very thorough. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So Steve, you want any comments?
No, I like the organization.
I know you do.
I do. It's just, it was different and exciting.
Yeah.
One I hadn't thought about.
So, well, Diana, thank you so much. We finally did it. For those of you who are listening, we've jumped through some real hoops, and ironically, Diana, I'll tell you later, we almost had a problem with today, ironically. But just know that. And I'm like, no, we're on our third or fourth set of dates already. So glad that you took the time to tell us about you and your organization, and just opening up, I know for many people, a whole different way of thinking about career paths, of what's available, which I think is so important. And I really appreciate you coming on. I know we all do, and can't wait to do something else with you again. So thanks so much for being on, okay?
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, sounds good. And for those of you listening, again, if this is your first one, the others are up on YouTube within a short period of time. We hope before the end of the year to have them up on other platforms, and If you're not on the e-guide list, drop me an email so you can find out what's going on. And
Or text Meet Guide to 22828.
yeah, he's the only one who remembers that. I never remember the code to be on the e-guide. And lots of cool things coming up right now. It is the middle of October. There is a November, December CMP class. Bunch of new things we're working on in the company to hopefully offer different experiences for people. So really appreciate it. Again, thanks so much, Diana, and signing off. And we'll talk to you next time on Sit in the Attendees Chair. Bye-bye.